Dr. Rachel Bennett gripped the cold metal rails of the research vessel Aurora as it rocked gently in the Pacific Ocean. The morning sun cast long shadows across the deck where her team prepared for their deepest dive yet. 3 months of planning had led to this moment. They were about to explore a section of the Mariana Trench that no human had ever seen. "Final equipment check complete," called out David Rodriguez from beside the submersible. The marine archaeologist had joined the mission, hoping to find ancient artifacts on the ocean floor. His excitement was obvious as he ran his hands over the diving equipment one more time. Dr. Amanda Foster emerged from the ship's laboratory carrying her biological sampling gear. The xenobiologist had spent years studying unusual life forms in extreme environments. She hoped to discover new species in the deepest parts of the ocean. Her equipment bags were packed with collection tools and preservation containers. "Descent begins in 10 minutes, announced Captain Lisa Thompson over the ship's communication system. She had been chosen to pilot the submersible because of her experience with dangerous underwater missions. The military had trained her well for situations where things could go wrong quickly. The submersible Triton sat ready in the water beside their ship. It was built to withstand the crushing pressure found at the bottom of the ocean. Its thick walls and reinforced windows would protect the team during their journey into the deep. Advanced cameras and lights were mounted on its hull to record everything they found. Rachel climbed into the cramped interior of Triton first. She had led many underwater expeditions, but none this deep. The pressure at their target depth would be over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. One small crack in their hull would mean instant death for everyone inside. David and Amanda followed her into the submersible. The 3 scientists squeezed into seats surrounded by control panels and monitoring equipment. Their breathing masks were connected to the ship's air supply system. Emergency oxygen tanks were stored behind their seats in case something went wrong. "Beginning descent now," Lisa announced as she sealed the entry hatch. The submersible's engines hummed to life, and they began sinking into the dark water below. Sunlight faded quickly as they dropped deeper into the ocean. The first hour of their descent passed without incident. They watched through the windows as strange fish swam past in the murky water. Amanda took notes about the unusual creatures they observed. Some had lights on their bodies that glowed in the darkness. Others had shapes unlike anything she had seen before. "Passing 20,000 feet, Lisa reported. The water outside had become completely black. Their lights were the only source of illumination in the endless void around them. The pressure readings on their instruments continued climbing as they went deeper. Rachel studied the sonar displays showing the ocean floor below. According to their maps, they should reach the bottom soon. The seafloor in this area was supposed to be relatively flat, with some small hills and valleys. Nothing in their research had suggested they would find anything unusual down here. "I'm getting some strange readings," David said while looking at his equipment. The metal detectors were showing large metallic objects directly below them. The signals were stronger than anything he had ever recorded from natural formations. Amanda checked her own instruments. The biological sensors were detecting organized structures instead of random rock formations. Something large and artificial was waiting for them on the ocean floor. Her heart began beating faster with excitement and fear. "There!" Lisa pointed through the front window. Their lights were beginning to illuminate the bottom of the ocean. What they saw made all 3 scientists gasp in amazement. Rising from the seafloor was a massive structure that clearly was not natural. It looked like a ship, but was unlike any vessel ever built by humans. The hull appeared to be made of a crystalline material that reflected their lights in rainbow colors. Strange symbols covered its surface in patterns that seemed to shift and move in the light. The ship was enormous. From their position above it, they could see it stretched for at least half a mile in length. Its width was nearly as impressive. The design was sleek and curved with no sharp angles or straight lines. It looked more grown than built. "This is impossible," Rachel whispered. Human civilization had never built anything like this. The ship looked ancient beyond measure. Layers of sediment covered parts of its hull, but the crystalline material underneath appeared undamaged by time. David frantically operated his cameras to record everything they were seeing. The metal composition readings from his instruments made no sense. The materials in the ship's construction did not match any known elements. Some of the readings suggested substances that should not exist. Amanda's biological scanners were detecting something even more disturbing. Faint energy signatures were coming from inside the ship. After millions of years on the ocean floor, something inside was still alive, or at least still active. "We need to get closer," Rachel decided. This discovery would change everything humanity knew about history and their place in the universe. She had to learn more about this mysterious vessel. Lisa carefully maneuvered their submersible toward the ship's hull. As they approached, the strange symbols on its surface began glowing with soft blue light. The illumination grew brighter the closer they came. "The ship is responding to our presence," Amanda observed with growing excitement. Her instruments showed increasing energy activity from within the structure. Whatever was inside was waking up after eons of sleep. David managed to collect a small sample from the ship's hull using their mechanical arm. The crystalline material felt warm to the touch, even through the ocean's freezing water. When he placed it in their sample container, it continued glowing with the same blue light. Rachel made detailed recordings of the ship's exterior features. The symbols appeared to be some form of writing, but in no language known to humanity. The mathematical precision of the ship's construction suggested builders with technology far beyond current human capabilities. After 4 hours of study, their oxygen supplies forced them to return to the surface. The 3 scientists sat in stunned silence during their ascent. Each of them understood they had made the most important discovery in human history. The ship waiting in the deep would change everything. They had found proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. Even more disturbing, they had found evidence that other intelligent beings had visited Earth long before humans existed. Rachel knew their discovery would create chaos in the scientific community and beyond. Religious leaders would struggle to explain how their beliefs fit with this new evidence. Governments would demand access to any technology the ship might contain, but first they had to convince the world that what they found was real. The crystalline sample in their possession would provide the proof they needed. Its impossible properties would force even skeptics to accept the truth. As they reached the surface, Rachel looked back toward the depths where the ancient ship waited. Something told her this was only the beginning of a much larger mystery. The universe had just become a far more dangerous and wonderful place. 3 weeks after their discovery, Dr. Rachel Bennett stood in the emergency session room at the United Nations headquarters in New York. World leaders filled every seat as she presented her findings about the crystalline ship. The sample they had brought up from the depths sat in a containment unit on the table before them. "The material defies every law of physics we understand," Rachel explained to the assembled crowd. "It generates its own energy without any fuel source. The temperature remains constant regardless of external conditions. Most disturbing of all, it seems to respond to human thoughts and emotions." General Robert Hayes from the Joint Chiefs of Staff leaned forward in his chair. "Dr. Bennett, are you saying this material is alive?" His military training made him think immediately about potential weapons applications. "Not alive in any way we recognize," Amanda Foster answered from beside Rachel. "But it definitely shows signs of intelligence. When we expose it to different people, it reacts differently to each person's brain patterns." David Rodriguez activated the large screen behind them. Images of the ship appeared showing its massive size and impossible construction. "We estimate this vessel is at least 10 million years old. No human civilization existed when this ship was built. Someone else was here long before us." The room erupted in worried conversations as leaders discussed the implications among themselves. President Sarah Mitchell raised her hand for silence. What do we know about who built this ship? Are they still alive? Are they coming back? Rachel was about to answer when every communication device in the room began buzzing at once. Security personnel rushed in with urgent messages for their respective leaders. Something was happening in the skies above major cities around the world. Madam President, General Hayes spoke into his secure phone. Multiple unidentified objects have appeared in orbit around Earth. They're not responding to our communications attempts. The objects appear to be ships of unknown origin. Outside the building, people pointed at the sky, where metallic shapes hung motionless in the clouds. The alien vessels were visible to the naked eye, despite being miles above the surface. Their smooth hulls reflected sunlight like mirrors as they maintained perfect formation around the planet. Within an hour, one of the alien ships descended and landed in Central Park. Military units surrounded the area as crowds of curious people gathered. Behind police barriers, news crews from around the world broadcast live coverage of humanity's first official contact with alien life. A section of the ship's hull dissolved like water, and 3 beings emerged. They stood roughly 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. Their movements were graceful, but their expressions seemed worried rather than friendly. Each wore flowing robes that seemed to change color in the light. The lead alien stepped forward and spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Thylex of the Centauri Collective. We have come to discuss the discovery your species has made in your ocean depths." President Mitchell arrived at the landing site within minutes. The Secret Service created a secure perimeter as she approached the alien delegation. Her heart pounded, but she tried to appear calm and diplomatic. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Thylex," she said formally. "We are honored by your visit. How do you know about our discovery?" Thylex exchanged glances with his companions before answering. "The ship you found has been sending signals since you activated it. We have been waiting for this day for many thousands of years. Your species has found something very dangerous." A second alien stepped forward. This one was taller and wore more elaborate robes marked with silver symbols. "I am High Counselor Vex of the Andorian Republic. The vessel you discovered belongs to a species we call the Ancients. They vanished from the galaxy long ago after becoming too powerful for their own good." Dr. Bennett had been brought to the meeting along with her team. She couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. "Too powerful in what way? What happened to them?" Vex's large eyes seemed to grow even darker. "The Ancients developed technology that could reshape reality itself. They built weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Their final creations were beyond the understanding of any other species. Then one day, they simply disappeared without explanation." Ambassador Thylex gestured toward the crystalline sample that had been brought to the meeting. "That material your people recovered is ancient technology. It responds only to certain genetic patterns. Most species cannot even safely approach it." General Hayes stepped closer to the aliens. "Are you saying humans can use this ancient technology when others cannot?" The 2 aliens exchanged another worried look. High Counselor Vex spoke carefully. "Your species shows unusual compatibility with ancient artifacts. This is why we have been monitoring your world for centuries. We hoped you would never find any of their remaining technology." President Mitchell felt a chill run down her spine. "Monitoring us? For how long? And why didn't you make contact before now?" "The Galactic Council established observation protocols for your world 3,000 years ago," Thylex explained. "We have been watching your development to ensure you never became as dangerous as the Ancients were. Your discovery of their ship changes everything." Amanda Foster had been analyzing the aliens with her scientific equipment. Her readings showed they were genuinely alive, but their biology was completely different from any Earth life forms. "What exactly do you want from us now that we've found the ship?" Vex stepped forward with obvious reluctance. "The Galactic Council has sent us to offer your species a choice. You can join the galactic community as a protected member world. In exchange, you must surrender all ancient technology and allow us to modify your genetic structure to prevent future compatibility with their artifacts." The crowd of humans around the landing site grew silent. Even through the police barriers, people could hear the aliens' words. The implications were clear: surrender their discovery and submit to alien control or face unknown consequences. General Hayes looked at the alien ships still hanging in the sky above them. "And if we refuse your offer?" Ambassador Thylex's expression became even more troubled. "Then the Galactic Council will be forced to take more direct action to protect the galaxy from another ancient-level threat. We sincerely hope it will not come to that." President Mitchell realized that what had seemed like first contact was actually an ultimatum. The aliens weren't here to welcome humanity into a galactic community. They were here to ensure humanity never became powerful enough to threaten their established order. Dr. Bennett looked at the crystalline sample still glowing softly in its container. Humanity's greatest discovery had just become their greatest danger. The ancient ship in the deep held secrets that could elevate humanity to unimaginable heights or bring about their destruction. The choice now facing Earth's leaders would determine the future of their entire species. They could accept alien oversight and give up their independence, or they could resist and face the combined might of advanced civilizations that had been watching them for millennia. As more alien ships appeared in the sky above other major cities, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but they were also no longer safe. The galaxy had noticed them, and the galaxy was afraid. 2 days after the alien ultimatum, Dr. Rachel Bennett stood on the deck of a much larger research vessel positioned directly above the ancient ship. President Mitchell had ordered an immediate expansion of the deep-sea operation, despite protests from Ambassador Thylex and the Galactic Council. Humanity would not surrender their discovery without understanding what they were giving up. "The aliens are getting nervous," reported Captain Lisa Thompson as she emerged from the communications room. "Their ships have moved closer to our position. They're demanding we stop all research activities immediately." Rachel looked up at the alien vessels hovering in the sky above them. More ships had arrived during the night, creating a visible blockade around Earth. The message was clear. Humanity was surrounded and outnumbered. "Let them worry," she replied firmly. "We need to know what's really down there before we make any decisions about our future." Mark Stevens, the lead engineer brought in to study the ship's technology, finished his preparations for the next dive. His military background had taught him to never surrender an advantage without a fight. The ancient ship represented power that could change everything for humanity. "The new equipment is ready," Mark announced. "We've built interfaces that should allow us to connect directly with the ship's systems. If the aliens are right about our genetic compatibility, we might be able to activate more than just surface functions." Amanda Foster checked her biological monitoring equipment one final time. Over the past 2 days, she had noticed strange changes in the research team members. People who spent time near the crystalline samples showed increased reaction speeds and improved problem-solving abilities. The ancient technology was already affecting them. "I'm detecting energy increases from the ship," she reported. "It's been growing stronger since we brought more people to the site. The vessel seems to respond to the number of humans in the area." David Rodriguez had been studying the symbols covering the ship's hull through their underwater cameras. The patterns had been changing and becoming more complex as their research continued. Some sections now displayed what looked like mathematical equations or technical diagrams. "The ship is trying to communicate with us," David said with growing excitement. "The symbol patterns match some of the readings we're getting from our crystalline samples. I think it's teaching us how to understand its technology." Rachel made the decision that would change everything. "We're going down again. This time we're going to attempt direct contact with whatever intelligence is running that ship." The descent to the ancient vessel took less time than before because they had established a direct route. As their submersible approached the ship, the entire structure began glowing with blue light. The illumination was much brighter than during their first visit. "The ship knows we're coming," Lisa observed, as she piloted them toward an opening that had appeared in the vessel's hull. That doorway wasn't there before. It's inviting us inside. The submersible passed through what felt like a wall of warm water and entered a large chamber filled with breathable air. Somehow, the ship had created an environment where humans could survive without their diving equipment. The walls around them pulsed with gentle light patterns. Mark was the first to remove his diving helmet. The air inside the ship felt clean and energizing. As he breathed it in, he noticed his thoughts becoming clearer and his movements more precise. The ship's atmosphere was enhancing his abilities. "This is incredible," Amanda whispered as she took biological readings of the air around them. "The atmospheric composition is perfectly suited for human physiology. It's almost like the ship was designed for our species." They moved deeper into the vessel, following corridors that seemed to light up as they approached. The walls were covered with crystalline panels that responded to their presence with waves of color and energy. Rachel placed her hand against one panel and immediately felt a connection to something vast and ancient. Suddenly, a voice spoke directly into their minds. The communication was not heard through their ears, but understood instantly in their thoughts. The presence felt old, beyond measure, but also strangely familiar. "Welcome home, children of the stars," the voice said, with warmth and sadness. "I have been waiting so long for your return." Rachel found she could respond by thinking her words rather than speaking them aloud. "Who are you? What is this ship?" "I am the guardian intelligence of this vessel. You may call me Keeper. This ship is called the Seedling, and it was built by your true ancestors long ago." David stepped forward, his archaeological instincts taking over. "Our ancestors? But humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil evidence going back millions of years." The Keeper's mental voice carried hints of gentle amusement. "Your species did not evolve naturally on this world. You are the children of those you call the ancients. This ship carried the genetic templates that would become humanity to this world eons ago." Amanda's scientific mind struggled to process this information. "That's impossible. Our DNA shows clear evolutionary relationships to other Earth species. The genetic seeding process was designed to integrate with existing life forms," the Keeper explained patiently. "Your ancestors wanted their children to belong to this world completely, but they also wanted to ensure you would inherit their capabilities when the time came." Mark felt drawn to a large crystalline console in the center of the chamber. When he approached it, the surface began displaying complex technical diagrams. As he studied the information, he found he could understand technologies that should have been beyond human comprehension. "The ship is downloading information directly into our minds," he realized. "I know how to operate systems I've never seen before. The knowledge feels like it was always there, just waiting to be awakened." Lisa discovered she could interface with the ship's navigation systems through pure thought. The vessel responded to her mental commands as if she had been its pilot for years. The connection felt natural and effortless. "The aliens are afraid because they know what we're becoming," she said with growing understanding. "We're not just compatible with ancient technology. We are the ancients, or at least their intended successors." The Keeper confirmed their growing suspicions. "The species that came to your world call themselves the Galactic Council. They are the descendants of those who destroyed your original civilization out of fear. When your ancestors realized they would be eliminated, they scattered seed ships across the galaxy to ensure their people would survive." Rachel felt anger building inside her as the truth became clear. The aliens who claim to want to protect the galaxy are the same ones who committed genocide against our ancestors. Not all of them participated in the ancient war, the Keeper clarified. But their governments remember the threat your people once represented. They see the same potential awakening in humanity now. Amanda noticed that her companions were changing as they spent more time in the ship. Their movements were becoming more fluid and precise. Their eyes showed increased intelligence and awareness. The ancient genetics were activating in response to their environment. "What happens to us now?" she asked the keeper. "That depends on your choices," the ancient intelligence replied. "You can accept the limitations the council wishes to impose, or you can embrace your true heritage. But know that choosing your birthright will make you enemies of every established power in the galaxy." Mark studied the weapons systems that had appeared on his console display. The destructive power available to them was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. A single ship like this one could destroy entire fleets of the alien vessels currently surrounding Earth. "How many more ships like this are there?" he asked. "The seedling is one of thousands scattered throughout the galaxy," the keeper answered. "Most remain dormant, waiting for genetic activation by your people. When you are ready, they will answer your call." David realized the full implications of their situation. The aliens aren't just afraid of this one ship. They're terrified that humanity will find and activate an entire fleet of ancient vessels. The keeper's presence grew stronger in their minds. "Your species stands at a crossroads. You can remain as you are and live under the oversight of those who destroyed your ancestors. Or you can become what you were always meant to be and reclaim your place as inheritors of the galaxy." Rachel looked at her companions and saw her own decision reflected in their faces. The aliens had come to Earth offering humanity a choice between submission and destruction. But the ancient ship had revealed a third option, the power to choose their own destiny. "We choose to become what we were meant to be," she declared. The ship around them pulsed with approval as ancient systems began awakening for the first time in millions of years. Humanity's transformation had begun. Admiral Robert Hayes stood in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the Pentagon as alarms blared throughout the facility. On the massive screens before him, satellite feeds showed alien warships taking aggressive positions around Earth. The peaceful first contact had turned into something much more dangerous. "Sir, the alien fleet has doubled in size overnight," reported Colonel Sarah Mitchell from her position at the communications console. "We're detecting over 300 ships in various orbital positions. They're surrounding the entire planet." The transformation of Dr. Bennett's team had not gone unnoticed by the Galactic Council. Within hours of their connection with the ancient ship, Ambassador Thylex had demanded an immediate meeting with world leaders. His diplomatic tone had been replaced by barely concealed fear and anger. "They know something has changed, Admiral," Hayes said grimly. "The question is whether we're ready for what comes next." At the United Nations building in New York, President Sarah Mitchell faced the alien delegation in an emergency session. The mood in the room was tense as Ambassador Thylex and High Counselor Vex entered with a much larger escort than before. Their previously calm expressions had been replaced by obvious worry. "Your people have made a grave mistake," Thylex began without his usual diplomatic pleasantries. "We detected massive energy releases from the ancient vessel. Your team has activated systems that should never be awakened." President Mitchell remained calm, despite the threat in the alien's voice. "Our scientists are simply studying the technology we discovered. We haven't agreed to surrender anything to your council." "Hi." Counselor Vex stepped forward, his tall frame imposing in the meeting room. "You do not understand the danger you have unleashed. The ancients were destroyed because they became too powerful for the galaxy to contain. Your species is following the same path." Dr. Jennifer Walsh, Earth's lead diplomat, had been studying the aliens' behavior carefully. Their fear was genuine, but there was something else in their reactions. She suspected they were not telling the complete truth about the ancient war. "Counselor Vex, you say the ancients were destroyed. Can you tell us exactly how this happened? Who destroyed them and why?" The two aliens exchanged glances before Vex answered reluctantly. "A coalition of younger species united against the ancient threat. They had become too dangerous to allow their continued existence." "You mean your ancestors committed genocide?" President Mitchell stated bluntly. "And now you're afraid humanity will seek revenge for what was done to our people." The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. The alien delegation's reaction confirmed what the ancient ship's AI had revealed. The Galactic Council were descendants of those who had destroyed humanity's true ancestors. At that moment, every communication device in the room activated simultaneously. Dr. Rachel Bennett's voice came through clearly from the research vessel above the ancient ship. "Mr. President, we have a situation. The ship has fully awakened and is responding to the alien fleet's presence. Multiple weapon systems are coming online automatically." Admiral Hayes immediately opened a secure channel to the Pacific Research site. "Dr. Bennett, what is your status? Are you in control of the situation?" Rachel's voice carried a strange, new confidence that hadn't been there before. "Admiral, the ship's systems are integrating with our consciousness. We're not just operating the technology anymore. We're becoming part of it." Through their communication link, they could hear Mark Stevens in the background reporting on technical systems. "Admiral, this vessel has weapons capabilities beyond anything in our current understanding. The ship is showing us targeting solutions for every alien vessel in Earth's vicinity." High Counselor Vex stood abruptly, his composure finally breaking. "This is exactly what we feared. The ancient genetics are activating. Your people are becoming as dangerous as their predecessors." Ambassador Thylex activated a communication device of his own. Within minutes, the alien fleet began moving into attack formations around the planet. Their peaceful observation had become preparation for assault. "The Galactic Council cannot allow another ancient civilization to emerge," Thylex announced, formally. "We hereby demand the immediate surrender of all personnel connected to the ancient vessel. If you refuse, we will be forced to take action to protect the galaxy." President Mitchell looked at the alien ships visible through the windows of the meeting room. Each vessel was easily 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. The technological gap between Earth's military and the galactic forces seemed insurmountable. "And if we refuse?" she asked. "Then your species will share the same fate as the original ancients," Vex replied coldly. Dr. Walsh noticed something important in the aliens' behavior. Despite their threats and superior numbers, they seemed hesitant to actually begin their attack. Their fear of the ancient ship was greater than their confidence in victory. Back on the research vessel, Amanda Foster was experiencing changes that went far beyond enhanced intelligence. Her connection to the ancient ship was allowing her to sense the biological signatures of every alien crew member in the surrounding fleet. She could feel their fear like a physical presence. "They're terrified," she reported to her companions. "Their crews are on the edge of panic. They remember stories about what the ancients could do." David Rodriguez was accessing historical databases through the ship's systems. The information flowing into his mind painted a clear picture of the ancient war. The ancients didn't start the conflict. They were attacked first because the other species feared their rapid advancement. Lisa Thompson found herself naturally interfacing with the ship's weapons systems. The targeting computers were showing her exactly how to disable or destroy each alien vessel without harming their crews. The ancient technology was designed for precision rather than mindless destruction. "I can disable their entire fleet without killing anyone," she reported. "The ship's weapons can selectively target their engines and weapons systems." The Keeper's ancient consciousness spoke to all of them simultaneously. "The choice is yours, inheritors. You can defend yourselves and claim your birthright, or you can submit to those who destroyed your ancestors. But know that they will never stop fearing what you might become." Admiral Hayes made the decision that would determine humanity's future. "Dr. Bennett, you are authorized to defend yourselves and our planet using whatever means necessary. Earth will not surrender to the people who destroyed our ancestors." The ancient ship began to rise from the ocean depths for the first time in millions of years. As it emerged from the water, its crystalline hull reflected sunlight like a beacon of power. The alien fleet immediately detected the massive energy signatures emanating from the awakened vessel. "All ships, prepare for immediate attack," High Counselor Vex commanded through his communication system. "The ancient ship must be destroyed before it can activate additional systems." But as the first alien weapons fired toward the emerging ship, they found their energy beams deflected harmlessly by barriers that appeared around the ancient vessel. The ship's defensive systems were as advanced as its weapons, making it nearly invulnerable to attack. Michael Carter, a test pilot who had been brought to study the ship's flight systems, felt the vessel calling to him. As he connected his consciousness to the ship's navigation systems, he discovered he could pilot the massive craft with nothing more than his thoughts. "This is incredible," he reported, as the ship began moving through the air with impossible grace. "The vessel responds to pure intention. I don't need to learn how to fly it. The knowledge is already part of me." The alien fleet found itself facing something they had thought destroyed forever. An ancient ship operated by humans who were rapidly becoming what their ancestors had been. The very thing they had come to prevent was happening before their eyes. The battle for Earth's independence was about to begin. The ancient ship called Seedling moved through Earth's atmosphere like it was dancing with the wind. Michael Carter guided the massive vessel with his thoughts, while the alien fleet scrambled to respond to this impossible sight. Their weapons had proven useless against the ship's defenses, and panic was spreading through their ranks. "Multiple energy signatures are appearing throughout the solar system," reported Amanda Foster from her position at the ship's biological scanning station. Her enhanced senses could detect ancient technology awakening on distant worlds. "The Seedling's activation is sending signals across space." Dr. Rachel Bennett felt the ship's consciousness expand as it connected with dormant systems scattered throughout the galaxy. Through her link with the Keeper, she could see ancient installations hidden in asteroid belts, buried on lifeless planets, and floating in the dark spaces between stars. "How many facilities are out there?" she asked the ancient AI. "Your ancestors prepared for the possibility of their destruction," the Keeper replied through their mental connection. 10,000 installations wait throughout known space. Each one will respond only to the genetic signatures of their creator's children." High Counselor Vex watched in growing horror from his flagship as new contacts appeared on their sensors. Ancient technology that had been invisible for millions of years was suddenly broadcasting its presence. The nightmare scenario his people had feared for generations was becoming reality. "All ships maintain defensive positions," he commanded his fleet. "Do not approach any of the new contacts. We need to assess the threat level before taking action." Colonel Sarah Mitchell coordinated Earth's response from the Pentagon's command center. Military installations around the world were reporting strange phenomena as ancient technology hidden on Earth began activating. Crystalline structures were emerging from beneath mountains and ocean floors. "Sir, we're getting reports from installations worldwide," she informed Admiral Hayes. "Some kind of machinery is rising from underground locations in Nevada, Siberia, and the Sahara Desert. The energy readings match those from the ship." Mark Stevens had become the ship's primary technical interface. Through his connection to the ancient systems, he could access blueprints and technical specifications for technologies that Earth scientists had never imagined. Manufacturing facilities buried deep underground were coming online after eons of dormancy. "The production centers are activating," he reported to his companions. "I can see designs for ships, weapons, and technologies that make our current science look primitive. The ancients left us everything we need to rebuild their civilization." David Rodriguez was accessing historical records through the ship's vast databases. The true story of the ancient war was more complex than the aliens had revealed. The ancients had been peaceful until other species began attacking them out of fear and jealousy. "The historical records show a pattern," he told the others. "Every time the ancients shared their technology or tried to help younger species, those same species eventually turned against them. The final war lasted for centuries before the ancients were overwhelmed by sheer numbers." Lisa Thompson piloted the seedling toward one of the emerging installations in the Nevada desert. As they approached, a massive complex rose from beneath the sand dunes. The facility was larger than any city on Earth, with crystalline towers, reaching into the sky and manufacturing bays that could build fleets of ships. "This is just one installation," she said in amazement. "If there are thousands of these facilities throughout the galaxy, the ancients left behind enough resources to rebuild their entire civilization." Ambassador Thylex tried to maintain diplomatic contact with Earth's leaders, even as his worst fears came true. "President Mitchell, you must understand the danger your species is unleashing. The ancients nearly destroyed the galaxy before they were stopped. Your people are following the same path." President Mitchell had been receiving updates from the ancient ship throughout the crisis. The transformation of the research team was giving her insights into technologies and possibilities she had never imagined. "Ambassador, from what I'm learning, your people attacked first. The ancients were defending themselves." "They became too powerful," Thylex insisted. "No single species should have the ability to reshape reality itself. The ancient technology you're activating will make you gods among mortals. That level of power corrupts absolutely." Dr. Jennifer Walsh had been studying the aliens' behavior and communications throughout the crisis. Their fear was genuine, but she was beginning to understand the real reason behind their terror. "You're not afraid of what we might do with the power. You're afraid we'll do to you what you did to our ancestors." The accusation hit too close to the truth. The Galactic Council's ancestors had united against the ancients not just out of fear, but out of jealousy and the desire to maintain their own dominance. Now those same species faced the possibility of judgment for their ancient crimes. Amanda Foster discovered she could communicate directly with the awakening installations through her biological connection to the ship. Each facility that came online expanded her awareness and capabilities. She was becoming something more than human, just as the Keeper had promised. "I can feel installations awakening in the Andromeda Galaxy," she reported. "The ancient network spans multiple galaxies. They didn't just prepare for their civilization's survival on a planetary or even stellar scale. They planned for galactic domination." The first of the newly awakened facilities began producing ships designed specifically for human crews. The vessels combined ancient technology with genetic interfaces that allowed humans to operate them instinctively. Within hours, Earth had access to a fleet that rivaled anything the Galactic Council could deploy. Captain Robert Kane was among the first humans to pilot one of the new ancient ships. As he connected with the vessel's systems, he felt his consciousness expand to encompass technologies beyond his previous understanding. The ship responded to his thoughts faster than any human-built aircraft ever could. "This is incredible," he reported during his test flight. "The ship anticipates what I want to do before I even decide to do it. It's like the vessel knows me better than I know myself." Michael Carter guided the seedling to rendezvous with the new fleet emerging from the Nevada facility. Dozens of ancient ships rose into Earth's atmosphere, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each vessel was crewed by humans who were rapidly adapting to their new capabilities. "Fleet status report," Admiral Hayes requested from his command center. 67 ships operational and ready for deployment," Mark Stevens reported from the seedling. "Production facilities are working at full capacity. We'll have over 200 ships within the next 12 hours. High Counselor Vex realized that the situation had moved beyond containment. The humans weren't just accessing ancient technology, they were becoming the ancients reborn. His fleet of 300 ships suddenly seemed inadequate against an enemy that could produce vessels faster than they could be destroyed. "All Council fleets in the sector converge on Earth immediately," he commanded through emergency channels. "We need massive reinforcements if we're going to stop this threat before it spreads beyond this system." But the ancient installations weren't just producing ships. Deep space monitoring stations were coming online throughout the galaxy, giving humanity awareness of every Galactic Council movement. Weapon platforms hidden in asteroid belts began charging their systems. Manufacturing centers buried on distant worlds started building automated defense networks. Dr. Bennett felt the scope of her ancestors' preparations becoming clear. They hadn't just planned for survival, they had prepared for the eventual return of their people to reclaim their place as the galaxy's dominant species. The ancients knew they would lose the war, she realized. But they also knew their children would eventually find their inheritance. Everything we're discovering was meant for us. The Keeper's ancient consciousness confirmed her understanding. Your ancestors were patient beyond measure. They accepted temporary defeat in order to ensure ultimate victory. The species that destroyed them planted the seeds of their own downfall when they allowed the seed ships to scatter. As more ancient installations came online throughout the galaxy, the balance of power began shifting dramatically. The Galactic Council found themselves facing not just a single awakened ship, but an entire hidden civilization emerging from dormancy. Their plans to contain humanity had triggered the very catastrophe they had tried to prevent. The war that would determine the galaxy's future was about to begin in earnest. 6 months after the awakening began, Dr. Rachel Bennett stood on the bridge of the ancient command ship that had emerged from Jupiter's Great Red Spot. The massive vessel served as the flagship for humanity's growing fleet of over 10,000 ships. Through her enhanced consciousness, she could perceive every human-operated ancient installation throughout the galaxy. The transformation was complete. Humanity had become what their ancestors intended, a species capable of wielding technologies that could reshape reality itself. But with that power came a terrible understanding of what they had truly inherited. Status report from all sectors, she requested through the ship's communication network that operated faster than light across galactic distances. Captain Michael Carter, now commanding the Pacific Fleet, responded first. All Galactic Council strongholds in the Outer Rim have surrendered. Their military forces are requesting terms for peaceful coexistence. Colonel Sarah Mitchell reported from the Andromeda Galaxy Command Center. The Council's homeworlds are surrounded, but unharmed. They're finally ready to negotiate from a position of weakness instead of strength. Admiral Robert Hayes coordinated operations from Earth, which had become the administrative center of humanity's galactic empire. The planet's surface was now dotted with ancient facilities that managed resources and communications across millions of star systems. The last Council fleet surrendered this morning, he reported. High Counselor Vex is requesting a formal meeting to discuss terms for their species' survival. Dr. Bennett felt the weight of decision pressing on her consciousness. Through her connection to the ancient network, she could eliminate every Council world with a single thought. The power to commit genocide on a galactic scale was literally at her fingertips. Her ancestors had possessed this same terrible capability. Ambassador Thylex waited in the detention facility aboard the command ship where he had been held since the final battle 6 weeks earlier. His proud demeanor had been replaced by the quiet desperation of someone who knew his species' fate depended entirely on human mercy. President Sarah Mitchell arrived at the command ship for the historic meeting that would determine the galaxy's future. She had aged rapidly during the months of conflict, bearing the responsibility of speaking for a species that had become gods among mortals. "Are we ready to receive their surrender?" she asked Dr. Bennett as they prepared for the formal ceremony. Rachel's enhanced awareness could perceive the fear radiating from every Council species throughout the galaxy. Billions of beings waited to learn whether humanity would be merciful, rulers, or vengeful conquerors. The choice would define what humanity would become. "The question isn't whether we're ready to accept their surrender," Rachel replied thoughtfully. "The question is whether we're ready to become what we have the power to become." Dr. Amanda Foster had spent months studying the biological and psychological effects of the ancient enhancement process. Her research had revealed disturbing truths about the original ancients and the reasons for their ultimate fate. "I need to show you something before we proceed with the surrender ceremony," Amanda told her companions. "I've discovered why the ancients really disappeared." She activated a holographic display showing her analysis of the ancient genetic records. The information painted a complex picture of a species that had gained too much power too quickly and struggled with the moral implications of their capabilities. The ancients didn't lose the war because they were outnumbered, Amanda explained. They lost because they couldn't decide whether to use their full power against their enemies. Their moral restraint became their weakness. Mark Stevens, now serving as humanity's chief technology officer, had accessed the deepest levels of ancient knowledge. His discoveries had been both wonderful and terrifying. The final ancient databases contained plans for technologies that could destroy entire galaxies or create new forms of life. Our ancestors held back from using their ultimate weapons because they knew the consequences would be irreversible. David. Rodriguez had become humanity's chief historian, responsible for documenting both the ancient war and humanity's rise to power. His research had revealed the cyclical nature of galactic civilizations and the pattern of species rising and falling. Over millions of years, every dominant species eventually faces the same choice, he observed. Use unlimited power responsibly and risk being overthrown by fearful neighbors, or use power absolutely and become the very monsters those neighbors feared. Lisa Thompson now commanded the largest ancient manufacturing center in the Milky Way galaxy. Her facilities could produce enough ships and weapons to conquer 1,000 galaxies if needed, but she had also seen what unlimited production capabilities had done to the original ancients. The manufacturing records show that the ancients could have rebuilt their fleet faster than their enemies could destroy it, she reported. They chose to limit their own production because they didn't want to become conquerors. That decision cost them everything. High Counselor Vex was finally brought before the human leadership for the formal surrender ceremony. His tall frame seemed diminished by months of confinement and the knowledge that his entire civilization existed only because humanity allowed it. We surrender unconditionally to the human empire, he stated formally. We place ourselves at your mercy and accept whatever judgment you deem appropriate for our species' actions. President Mitchell looked at the alien leader who had once threatened Earth with destruction. The power dynamic had reversed completely, but she felt no satisfaction in their enemy's defeat. The responsibility of ruling an entire galaxy was overwhelming. Hi, Counselor Vex. Your people attacked humanity because you feared we would become like our ancestors. Your actions have ensured that we became exactly what you were trying to prevent. Dr. Bennett stepped forward to address the Galactic Council's final representative. Through her enhanced consciousness, she could perceive the future paths available to humanity. Each choice would determine not just their species' fate, but the fate of every living being in the galaxy. Your ancestors destroyed our people because they feared ancient power, she began. But they didn't understand that power without wisdom leads to the same destruction they were trying to prevent. She gestured to the displays showing ancient installations throughout the galaxy. Millions of facilities waited for orders that could reshape entire star systems or eliminate species that posed potential threats. We could use this power to ensure humanity never faces threats again. We could reshape every species in the galaxy to serve our needs. We could become the eternal rulers our ancestors chose not to become. High Counselor Vex watched her with growing hope and terror. He understood that humanity's decision in this moment would echo throughout galactic history. But our ancestors made their choice for a reason, Rachel continued. They understood that absolute power absolutely corrupts. They chose to preserve their moral principles even when it cost them their lives. President Mitchell stepped beside her transformed colleague. The human empire offers the Galactic Council a different choice than your ancestors offered our people. We will not commit genocide against those who wronged us. Instead, we offer coexistence under a new order. The terms were surprisingly generous. Council species would maintain their homeworlds and basic independence. They would contribute resources and knowledge to the galactic community, but would not be enslaved or eliminated. Humanity would provide protection and technological advancement in exchange for acceptance of human leadership. Why spare us? High Counselor Vex asked with genuine confusion. We tried to destroy your species. We murdered your ancestors. Justice demands retribution. Dr. Bennett felt the weight of ancient knowledge and human morality balanced within her consciousness. The choice between vengeance and mercy would determine what humanity would become over the coming millennia. Because, she replied finally, we choose to be better than our pain. We choose to be better than our power. We choose to be worthy of the inheritance our ancestors died to give us. The surrender ceremony concluded with the establishment of humanity's galactic empire built on principles of protection rather than domination. The ancient installations would be used to defend and develop rather than conquer and destroy. The same power that could eliminate enemies would instead be directed toward exploration and creation. But Dr. Bennett knew the real test was yet to come. Absolute power was a burden that had destroyed every species that achieved it. Humanity would need to remain vigilant against their own capabilities if they wanted to avoid the fate of their predecessors. As she looked out at the stars from the command ship's observation deck, Rachel reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A simple deep-sea exploration had uncovered humanity's true heritage and transformed them into the galaxy's new rulers. The ship found in the deep had indeed made humanity very dangerous, but whether they would use that danger to protect or to dominate remained a choice they would have to make every day for the rest of their existence. The galaxy waited to see what gods looked like when they chose to remain human.